Who want one last trip to the long trail?
The conversation of balance is one that will never end. So many players all over the world, we all have different experiences because one, different regions have different popular characters, but then also we all play different characters. We struggle with different matchups. Trying to achieve a balance where everyone is happy just will not be possible, especially if you take into consideration how players are always discovering new metas. Tekken is a very complicated game, and even going through the entirety of the lifespan of Tekken 7 and the entirety of the lifespan of Tag 2, players were still adapting and adjusting and discovering all the way up until the end. And with year one of Tekken 8 kind of coming to a conclusion, players are still making a lot of different discoveries. Like if we pop over to Twitter and look at this tweet from Arslan. In the past, I believe he said the top three characters was like Yoshi, Nina, Dragunov. But here, 2 days ago at the time of recording, he says top three characters are Nina, Yoshi, and Jin. Jin is a character who people don't talk that much about, but little by little, he's starting to pop up more in the conversation. And this is what's so fascinating, right? This is kind of what I predicted, not necessarily Jin, but I just predicted that, the players focus so much on Dragunov, and once Dragunov is kind of removed from the picture, even though he's still very strong, you will have more characters who immediately take his spot and immediately be the focus of. We all know Tekken 8 is kind of unbalanced right now, and the reason why is because they didn't do an arcade for this game. They tried to do the early testing and tournaments, but it still wasn't as valuable as like doing arcade for a total year straight and then adjusting, right? So the high damage output, the Oki at the wall, and generally just fighting in like the neutral is something that the top tier characters are very, very strong at. And simply when I look at these clips that's being posted to Reddit and Twitter and YouTube, I simply ask the question, did the developers intend for this to happen? Did the developers know that, let's say Lily, for example, she gets a lot of weird Oki at the wall. Did they know that Lily would be capable of that? Or did they not know? The example that I give is Yoshimitsu's Flash, right? Yoshimitsu's Flash, day one was pretty crazy. It had tracking pretty much to both sides. The hitbox was big. It stretched out really far so you can like loop the flashes into one another at the wall. That is something that the developers did not intend, and they acted swiftly on it. So when you look at some of these things that the other characters can do, it's a little bit more complex on how you like want to analyze it and focus on it. I think the Flash is something easy that we all can point to and say that doesn't look right. But when you start talking about Jin's down 2, Nina's mid power crush heat engager, you had another tweet here from Arslan where he says Jin's 214 string is too strong, needs nerf ASAP. Something you also got to talk about, no matter how true Arslan is here, I'll let you guys be the deciding factor on whether or not Jin's 214 string is strong. But I see a lot of people who are just saying that they're getting kind of tired of the endless conversation around balance. And that's how I feel as well. I do feel like the conversation is pretty endless. Like we've seen a player base go from Devil Jin to Azazina, to King, to Zhao Yu, to Dragunov, to Yoshimitsu, to, Nina. Now you have Jin. Players just go from character to character to character, demanding that they be wiped out. We haven't seen how ruthless the developers will be when it comes to balancing these characters. So far, they've just been kind of slapping the characters on wrist because they don't want to destroy the competitive integrity, which is something that people are also questioning. But when they do really start to take action, we will see how let's say these three characters here, Nina, Yoshi, and Jin Kazama, we will see the outcome of it. You know what I think is so fascinating, right? So the top 10 strongest characters in the game are really, really powerful. I mean, really powerful. I think that they all need to be nerfed, but how realistic is it for them to do that in season 2? You guys tell me, is that hype? Imagine looking at the season 2 patch notes and you play Nina, Yoshi, Dragunov, Jin, Alyssa, Shahid, King, whatever other character is considered super top tier. Imagine if your character is just getting slapped across the board and everything's getting nerfed. I don't think players would walk away from those patch notes like, yeah, this is hype. Just generally, your character getting destroyed is not a good feeling. And with them attacking potentially so many characters at once, how would that pan out? And, when you talk about Heihachi, right? The Heihachi down players, you guys are strong, bro. You guys are strong. I know that Heihachi is a very popular character right now. And whenever any character is ultra popular, people really don't talk about how powerful the character is. It's kind of like, on hush. Like King. King is really powerful in this game, but no one ever says it, and that's because he's literally like top 3 most played in the whole game, right? But with Heihachi, he's ultra powerful, and I think we have a prime example of why that is. Atif has been one of the best and most dominant Dragunov players for the entirety of the year, pretty much. Him and Arslan dominated Evo. He brought his Dragunov to the EWC, and even though he, eventually got beat by Ulsan, it was crazy, but regardless, he's been super dominant with Dragunov. Tell me why, after the recent nerfs that Dragunov got to his tracking, the character who Atif switched to next is Heihachi. Bro's a Heihachi main now. At this point, seeing Atif play Heihachi, I'm like, oh yeah, he's definitely top 5 in the game. But that's something you got to take into consideration as well. Like with Heihachi being so powerful, how does that character play out? His ultra instinct stance is crazy, not giving great health. This is just something that I think about with Tekken 8 in general. I feel like Tekken 8, they put so many different effects onto one mechanic, and it kind of is just overflowing. Like you have power crush, tracking, save, heat activation, chip. That's like 5 different things that they will put onto one move. And it's like, why don't they spread it out a little bit? There's some moves that are kind of useless. I recently posted on Twitter as well how many moves every character has. And it was pretty funny because there was a lot of people in the comment section like, oh, lol, this character only needs to use 4. This character only needs to use 10, and so on and so forth, right? I think Heihachi is a character where you can win with doing like 3 moves, and that's it. Going back to Jin Kazama, I'll let the Heihachi mains breathe a little bit. Atif comments on the conversation around Jin Kazama, responding to Arslan. He says, really, Arslan, Jin Kazama needs adjustments, like some of his moves need to be nerfed. 214 should be minus, and up 4-2 should be minus. Like Feng, his damage should be nerfed. He takes away too much damage. So I was playing Jin Kazama. This is one of the characters who I started to lab against first. I've been doing a lot of punishment training and whatnot. On a side note, punishment training, I feel, really doesn't prepare you for what the characters will actually do. I spent like 20 minutes practice punishment training against Jin Kazama, and then I got into a match and he did none of the moves that I spent the time like labbing against. They need to add more moves into the circulation of punishment training. Moves to crouch under, moves you can sidestep. They should add a little bit. Defense is not just about punishing, it's about sidestepping, crouching, all of these different things. I think they should add more to defense training because Jin Kazama, he will definitely throw you off guard. It's a very interesting thing. I think the conversation of balance is a very complex one. And just looking at tweets from the pro players like Arslan and Atif when they do these, it just makes me think like, how will the developers react? And what will they do? This tweet from Arslan got 127,000 views. I can guarantee one of those is Michael Murray and Harada. And what is their ideas on this? We will find out when season 1 ends and season 2 begins.